afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I am at Sam's restaurant here in Seattle. It is a Trinidadian restaurant, and this evening they are having a Steelpan event. It's held every month, and the band that's performing is a local band in Seattle called Phinney Ridge. Alright? They're still getting set up, but I'll just walk around and let you all see how everything is right now. Hope everybody's okay. Hi Ingrid, thanks for joining. Everybody. So this is Phinney Ridge.
Okay.
I'm on fire. As I said before, this is a local steel band here in Seattle. And this restaurant, Pam's Restaurant, is the only Trinidadian restaurant that I know of here. So I had some roti.
I'm going to introduce you to Pam. This is Pam.
I had some sorrel.
Is that true? Alright, so our food is fantastic. Yeah, everybody's going to get food. But it's three of us in the front and 3 people in the back, okay? Be patient with us. Keep the corridor kind of clear for us as we're walking. And if you guys, if you get it, people, just share a cake. Community, okay? Who are ready? Good. Everybody finish eating and the tables are clear. You finish, please let somebody else sit. Okay? Alright, and we have the bomb music tonight. Let's
Okay, so it's bomb music tonight.
Hey everybody, we're the Phinney Ridge Steelband. We're going to start with a tune called The Hammer. The next tune we're going to play is called Sarah. This is by Len Bootsy Sharp, legendary Trinidadian. Well, never mind. This is Sunset. This is also by Len Bootsy Sharp. Yeah, we're playing a tune called Sunset. This is a great tune.
So again, if you're now joining, I'm at Pam's restaurant in Seattle where Phinney Ridge Steelband is playing. And Pam's is a Trinidadian restaurant here. The band is local to Seattle. So I'm really curious to hear where they get all their music from. You're welcome, Don Gobin, and everybody else on the stream. Sorry if I haven't been checking in, I've just...
All right, I'd like to welcome two of my dearest friends in the world up to the front of the stage. Please welcome on clarinet, Brian Chappells and on Lauren Asmakakis. We're going to play a tune.
Yeah, Curtis, I learned about this band last summer, and then I heard about a few others after that. So, and they even give lessons here. Still waiting on the password for the internet. They're really busy right now, so as soon as they get a chance, they will send it to me.
Don't know. The only thing that's in control is that's what I learned. Like, everything else is outside of control. So what do you want to do? And that's all you can do. Yeah. Where you can stay?
Tonight we've done dark. We've done dark. Last night tonight, we spent 2 days ago. We spent 2 nights out in Forks. Night in Forks, Port Angels.
Did you see the band?
No.
It's cool.
Yes, everybody, still waiting on that password. As soon as I get it, I will connect to the Wi-Fi for the restaurant. It's not public, so unfortunately I have to wait a bit.
Like that.
pivot. You got this one. Set that pivot. And you can give it a strategy, domain expert, and now you've got the tech pivot.
Still waiting on the password, y'all. And they're playing High Mass by David Rudolph.
Thanks, everybody. We got one more song that we're going to play right now. Then we're going to bring up one of our classes. One of our classes that we teach. We would like to teach you. We would like to teach your kids. We would like to teach both you and your kids together or at different times. We've got flyers up here by the tip jar. We're going to play a tune that's written by Harry Belafonte, or written by Lord Kitchener, but made famous by Harry Belafonte. And we left this big open space in the front here, so, you know, there's a reason for that. It's because we want people to dance. This is a really, really good tune to dance on. This is called Jump in the Line.
Okay, sorry about that technical difficulty earlier. So I did add the password and everything, and it should be smooth sailing from now on. And my apologies. When I got here, everything was okay. Well, it didn't seem unstable, the data, until
Thanks,
everything
everybody.
started.
That was Jumping the Line. Written by Lord Kitchener, made famous by Harry Belafonte.
So they're going to do a little swap now.
We are going to welcome up a different band now. This is a band made up of kids ages about 3rd grade to 6th grade. Many of them I've been working with for the last couple of years. This is a class that we teach. We're hoping to start a band in the fall that runs year round for this kind of band of kids. So they've worked really, really hard. So please welcome up the Phinney Ridge Kids class. We're going to play 3 songs for you tonight. The first song we're going to play is called Lambada.
So these are the babies in Seattle. And again, if you're now joining, I'm at Pam's Restaurant. It's the only Trinidadian restaurant here in Seattle. And once a month, they have a pan side that comes here. They usually have Dingolay, which I covered before, but the leaders of Dingolay are currently away. And Phinney Ridge took over in their absence. And if you notice, they're playing Trinidadian music. But it's gonna switch now because I think they say the kids are gonna be playing La Bamba. Alright, so let me show you what's in this fridge here. They have pepper sauce on it. Yes, it's really interesting, to be honest. I don't know if they're affiliated with any Caribbean people, but this is a band that gives classes to learn to play pan. And the gentleman in the pink t-shirt, he's the leader of the band. I will be talking to him when they're done. The gentleman in the pink shirt here, he's the leader of the band. Hello.
tune called Lambada. That is a tune based on an old Brazilian tune. It's from the movie Lambada, the Forbidden Dance.
Oh, I remember that movie from when I was a teenager.
Thank you, Katie. All right. We're going to play another
If you remember when that movie was going on, they had lambada tights and they had to have a lambada skirt.
It is called Family Soldier Band.
They're changing out again.
Nina. One more, Nina. Sorry. Have to do it.
All right, we're going to play one more tune with the
Where's your family from?
here.
Where's your family from?
Where's
Where's your family from? Where's your family from?
If you are interested in taking one of your classes, not just going to show you our adult class, if you're interested in taking our beginner class or our class as your kids pick our class for kids, you should pick up one of these flyers that are right over here. Nicole has them. They're great. Maybe you should just hand those to everybody. If you don't need to do this, you can in fact. All right, we're going to put one more tune. It's called January.
I'm trying to get the... there it is. So kids are $150, adults are $200. And it's from April 21st to June 10th. So you have about 8 weeks of pants. So I don't know if you noticed, some of the students or the kids are swapping out pants. So some of them could play different kinds of pants.
If you would like to see all those songs performed again, follow us on Instagram. We're playing all that again on Tuesday at our rehearsal space on Tuesday night. Okay, the next group we're going to bring up is a group of people who have just started playing pan really for the first time. They are all adult beginner players. They're going to play some of the members of the Phinney Ridge Steelband. This is a class that we teach. We want you to take this class. This is Monday night, 7:15 to 8:45. No experience required. We provide all the instruments. We would really love to see you there. We're going to get that rolling in just a minute and play another really old Jamaican tune called Watch Coming In. It's like an 80 or 90-year-old great song.
Okay, so they're swapping out again. Sorry.
So it's really fascinating.
This is supposed to be a 2-hour event.
Trying to get it together.
Oh, hey, you're here.
Sorry? Thanks for being here, bro, man.
And it can be unwieldy and all the rest of it. All right, you ready to go?
That was Watercome on the Eye, played by our beginner adult Steelpan class. They're doing a really good job. They're also playing on Tuesday. Follow us on Instagram. We're going to play another tune. This is a tune called A-Day. This is written by a woman named Emily Lemmerman. She's a Steelpan builder and tuner based in Texas. And she writes music. And she has some really good especially very interesting music display.
Okay, I can't understand who he said. A-Day? Are you all familiar with A-Day? I'm not familiar with that person. So this was a beginner's adult class. So if I were to be here, this is a band that I'll be playing with.
You are capable of doing an accessible instrument. That's great. Any age that you would love to teach you, travel flyer up front here.
So if you notice, they're showcasing the talent of their class. They're showcasing the different
We just want people to take the class.
competencies.
If you can afford to pay, that's great. And if you can't, that is also okay.
Hi Lenny, good night.
All right, we're going to play one more song of this, then we're going to bring back up the Phinney Ridge Steelband. This is Water of Lava.
Alright, so this again, we have one more song by the beginners and then they will bring back on the advanced players. Alright? And again, if you're not joining us, I'm in Seattle. I live in Seattle. Even though the majority of the time I'm out of Seattle. But this is our Caribbean thing here. I'm at Palm's restaurant, a Trinidadian restaurant. Trinidadian roti shop. Hey Brandon, good night. How are you doing? So I don't think there are any Trinidadians in this band. And this gentleman in the pink shirt who's on the drum, he's the leader of the band. And this is the beginners. Jasmine and Brandon, I find like you're kind of boasting, eh?
They even learn the phone song and then you can play it live. So that's the most important thing. Sign up for classes. Phinney Ridge Steelband back up. It'll take us probably about 2 minutes here, and then we're going to start our second
What?
set. We're going to start with a tune called Rant and Rave.
Hey, they're gonna play Rant and Rave. So again, this is Phinney Ridge Steelband. Good night, everybody. That's out in the cold. How y'all doing? Yes, Lenny, I see it, I see it. Don't worry. I know how it is. Thanks, Gloria. A little more bundled up than usual, but I'm good. Not too hot, so that's good. And it's not too cold. This is Seattle. It's what, 50s today?
Thanks everybody, that was Rant and Rave.
We just played
One of our chiller songs. We are going to bring back our dear friend, Darian Asplin. Darian is a killer sax player. You should follow him on Facebook and Instagram. He has a quintet called the Darian Asplin Group. And I play drums in that group, and we play a whole bunch of cool music that he writes. He is truly one of the finest jazz musicians.
Wasn't Tamu who sang that song? I tried to remember who sang Rant and
We're going
Rave.
to play a tune called Summertime.
Hi, MK.
And this is going to feature a solo by me, and then by Darian. It's going to be great.
I'm 3 hours behind Lenny. Thanks, MK. Now MK, we have like 45 minutes again.
Ready?
almost summertime, and this is Phinney Ridge Steelband.
Me, Jason Leggett on lead piano. All right, we're going to play another tune by Len Bootsy Sharp.
Bootsy getting a real play tonight.
Ranger. He's also a killer guitar player. And if you ever get a chance to hear some Len Bootsy Sharp on guitar, you should do it. All right. Yeah, this is a tune called Sarah. This is maybe my favorite tune in the set. Kind of walks the line between like upbeat soca and something that's a little bit more laid back.
Last time I came here, they played better tunes from Len Bootsy Sharp as well, the Dingolay Band out of University of Washington. And Phinney Ridge is a neighborhood in Seattle. So I assume this steel band is from Phinney Ridge, Seattle.
Thanks, everybody. That was Sarah.
Lenny, this is not a school band.
Real quick.
It's within our
There's a man who
community.
just walked into the room. His name is Ben Leggett. He is my father. He's sitting right there.
And it's a mixture.
About half of the songs that we played tonight are his arrangements. Yeah, who of you, has anybody here been to the beautiful Tri-Cities, Washington? So my dad runs a gigantic Steelpan program in the Tri-Cities, Washington. That's what I grew up in. Nicole grew up in that group. Shauna grew up in that group. Sierra grew up in that group. And we wouldn't know how to do this if it wasn't for him. So, we love you. This next tune is one that was not arranged by
Very interesting.
my dad. This tune was arranged by Sierra, my sister-in-law. This is Sierra over here. She arranged the Dire Docks from Nintendo 64 Super Mario.
If you're now joining us, this is a Trinidadian restaurant in Seattle called Pam's Kitchen, Pam's Restaurant. Ooh, song.
These is another tune that's really good for dancing. Philip, are you playing on this tune? Philip, will you do me the honor of moving the other guitars off to the side a little bit? Oh yeah, you're gonna play it? Yeah. Let's do that. This is another good tune for dancing. I would encourage dancing with this song. I think you'll have a good time.
That was Beat Melody. I'm sure no introduction from Kitchener.
Sounds wonderful in here, right?
And y'all, this is Pam's, the owner of Pam's Kitchen. Trinity in Seattle.
We are keeping our culture together.
Thanks, Pam. Hi, Aaron. Good night. Good night.
This is a song by Lord Kitchener, Lord Melody, and Mary Belafonte, all working together to create a song about being so ugly that your kids make fun of you.
My last one, I heard a song, Mama Look Up.
It's a really good song. It doesn't sound like that's what it's about, but that's what we're going to play. Mama Look Up Boo Boo.
And y'all is only after 8 here in Seattle, eh? I don't know where the world you're tuning in from, but probably not as late as where you are. What do you mean by cheat sheets? You mean music sheets?
You know, the greatest thing about this band is that we never make mistakes. Just kidding. We make mistakes all the time.
I have not heard this song in a very long time.
We're going to play 3 more songs for you tonight. This first one is called Cantata. It is a matter of dispute where this song comes from, so I'm not even going to guess. But I know that it came to us through our friend John Cannon, who plays in the band. He can't be here tonight. He's another lifelong Cannon player. Thanks, John.
Cantaro.
He's always.
I'm live.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm live.
I know that.
Yeah.
That means you love it, huh?
I haven't used this channel, so I'm Does anyone know the song Cantaro? Sounds like it could be ours, but I'm too sure.
We're going to play a tune called Bugology. This is one of my dad's arrangements. It is by a band called Orquesta de la Luz. They are a Tokyo-based Cuban-style salsa band. And they rock.
Oh, Chanel, you know the song? Gloria, you know the song?
This is going to feature
Or that song?
first
Cantaro.
on lead, Hank Tien. Second on lead, Eric Barone.
Oh, nice. Is it from
Third,
Trinidad?
Ben Hills on lead also. Lots of solos. And finally, once again, Barry and Ashley.
Okay. It sounds like it's us, but I'm not too sure. And they say they're not sure where it came from.
Big fan of yours.
Thanks, Gloria. Interesting. think that's the end of them, but I was told that I would get an interview from the leader of the
Alright, we
band.
got one more tune.
Oh wait, so wait, no, there's another
Before we play that,
two.
we hear a round of applause for Pam and all of the groups from all the They do incredible work, as I'm sure you're aware. Make sure that you leave lots of tips. Come up to this chair here, grab a flyer, we'd love to teach you in a class. That's what we do. Several of the people in this band did not play steel drums before they started taking classes from us. So if you don't think that this is something you can do, I think you're wrong. Don't prove it to me. So this last song has a mandatory dancing. This is kind of a surprising song. It starts kind of slow. But you know, don't lock into that. Don't get too attached to it because it really speeds up. It's really fun. This is a tune called Chutney Bacchanal. Thanks for having us with Phinney Ridge Steelband.
Oh, you're gonna dance? Ah! So much of it.
Yeah, that's what
You're welcome, Ingrid. I will, thank you. Hi, Mike. 1994, Uptown Fascinators came second playing this song,
Thanks,
if
everybody.
I remember correctly. Okay, so I'm going to wait around for an interview
We're the Phinney Ridge Steelband. Thanks for having us
from
out.
the
Thank
leader
you,
of Phinney
Pam.
Ridge. If you're going to cut out,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
everybody
joining.
who was here working in
If you want
Pam's
to
kitchen
hear
tonight.
what he has to say, if you want to learn more about Phinney Ridge, I'm going to ask questions.
Come grab a flyer up here. Follow us on
How
Instagram,
they got
Phinney
into
Ridge
Steelpan, where
Steelband.
they got
Follow
the
us on
music
Facebook.
from,
Stay up to
with
date
the
with what we're doing. We're
Steelpan.
playing a lot this summer, like in folk life and lots of other fun things. Come out and see us. We want to teach you. We want to teach you how to do this. We want to teach your kids how to do this. All right. See you back here in a couple months, probably.
Alright.
I left my
Okay, y'all, I'm gonna put in a mic. Because I'm not sure if they're gonna put on music, but one second, let me give you a mic, okay?
What was that?
I'm gonna give you a mic.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do it here, or do you want me to come down here?
Anywhere you wanna go.
I'm gonna come down here. It'll be easier to hear you.
Thank you so much.
You brought my sister too.
Tip shop.
Thank you. Good job, Alice. Nice job.
I was gonna tell you if you're whispering anything, people can hear you, but I can't.
All right. I didn't say anything mean, I'm pretty sure.
I may have to share a mic with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, not a problem.
Alright? What's your name?
I am Jansen Leggett. B. Jansen Leggett.
Okay, so everyone on the stream, could you just give me a confirmation that you're hearing me? I put in a different mic, so let me know, please. I'm just waiting on confirmation.
Right on. Hey, everybody. Yeah. Sorry, what do you want to know?
Okay, right. So I want to know, I was just waiting. Okay, so they're hearing. I want to know, one, how long has this band been in existence? And how did you get involved? I know you said your father has a steel band. Can you tell me about that?
Absolutely.
And, your introduction to steel band and how you got involved in teaching people in Seattle to play.
Excellent. Absolutely. Hey, so I'm Jansen. I've been playing pan since I was probably about 3. My dad, Ben Leggett, started a steel band in my hometown, the Tri-Cities, Washington. It's called Brombertah. He started that at about 1995. And I grew up playing in there. I met my wife playing in that band growing up. Several of the people in this group played in that band growing up. He does a really good job, fantastic program. I moved out here to pursue a career in worship ministry. So I work in a church. I play music for a church. I arrange like strings and choral stuff like that. And then, I had all this space in the sanctuary, and I found out about some pans that were for sale. And I kept thinking about my friends who I know play pan who live in this city. And I thought, boy, I really want to do that here. You know, I really want to do that. So we started that almost 2 years ago. We started with 8 people. We're up at 25 people now. The band is about double this size, but this is what we can fit in Pam's space. And we're thankful to be here because we love Pam. So
That is awesome. I am from Trinidad and Tobago, where Steelpan was created. Have you ever been?
I have not. I really want to go. Growing up, folks would come and stay with us all the time, multiple times a year. In particular, growing up, Ellie Manette would come and stay with my family. He built all of my dad's instruments, and he would maintain them himself. So growing up, I would literally sit in Ellie Manette's lap, and he would tell me stories about stealing oil barrels from the U.S. Navy shipyard and swimming out with them and trying to build a drum, and then the police coming and taking his drum away, and then trying to build another drum and going out and stealing another oil barrel and stuff like that. And I was just really blessed to know, in particular, Ellie. But, it hasn't been in the cards for me yet to go to Trinidad. I really wanted to go, and then I had a son. And I thought, man, I can't leave. I can't leave for that long. So at some point, I'd love to play in Panorama. People in the band have played in Panorama before. I just have not. So one day.
So I just came from Trinidad. We had 5 rounds of Panorama, 5 categories. So, yes. So what I do want to know is, one, who maintains your pan for you? Tuning. Like, who's your tuner?
So we have had our pans tuned. First of all, almost all my drums came secondhand. So I don't know who tuned them before I had them. But a good half of my instruments were made by Glenn Rousey, may he rest in peace. Glenn was a dear friend. He gave me one of these pans, a double second pan, for me as a gift when I graduated high school. It really meant a lot to me. He made about half of my drums, and he also made several of the Manette musical instrument drums that I have. They were his creation, and Ellie worked on them a little bit. Since then, Emily Lemmerman has tuned our pans, and Steve Lowry has tuned our pans. He's tuned our pans yesterday, actually. And I'm hoping to get Ryan Roberts out at some point. We have ordered some drums from Ryan Roberts, but for people on the stream who know, it's really hard to get your pans chromed right now. And so I have 2 sets of cellos that Ryan built months ago, and then all the chromers shut down. So he's just like, what am I going to do, you know?
That is very true. I think so we have a company called Midco. They manufacture steel pans, and they actually have to send their pans to the U.S. to get them chromed, and then send back to Trinidad to finish the process.
It's a huge bottleneck in pan creation. Like, a couple of my drums were bought. They were like damaged instruments that Ryan Roberts picked up and reworked and stuff, and reshaped all the notes with his torch, rebuffed the chrome, rebuffed paint on some of them, and they sound great. And that's cool because he can do that all himself, but none of the builders chrome their own pans because they can't. And so that's tricky. That's a part of the pan world that I'm hoping at some point gets easier, but I feel for all the builders out there right now because it's hard.
Thank you. And where do you get your music from? I hear a lot of music that you played tonight was from Trinidad, and Trinidad composers, Trinidad singers. Where do you get your music from?
So a lot of our music, we have several tunes that are adaptations of famous Panorama big blow-up tunes, like Rant and Rave and Bee's Melody. We didn't play it, but we have an arrangement of Somebody we want to play at some point. We have stuff like My Band. We have a lot of stuff, you know. And those are great, and those are usually adapted. We can't do 12, 13 minutes of a tune, you know. So it's easier, it's shorter, but then we can play 10 or 15 tunes instead of like just one really long tune. But most of the music was either adapted by my dad or adapted by me. So like I listen to a steel band play a tune, or I listen to an original recording of Lord Kitchener, or I really want to do some stuff off that Andy Narell and Relator album, the University of Calypso. Oh my God. I want to do an arrangement of Bottle and Spoon. I want to do an arrangement of Pan on Sesame Street, all that stuff. And so it's pretty much all in-house. But we try to keep our music. We don't want to be playing less than half. We want at least half the songs we play to be Trinidadian artists. You know, I feel like it's important to the instrument. If you're going to play pan, play Trini music.
We Trinidadians appreciate you a lot for that. Also, so tell me about, viewers, where can they find you on social media? And I guess social media will have all the updates on when you all will be performing, but how can people find you?
So we primarily communicate through social media. Our band is called the Phinney Ridge Steelband. Phinney is spelled with a PH. P-H-I-N-N-E-Y, Ridge, R-I-D-G-E, Steelband. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, or email us at phinneyridgesteelband@gmail.com. Communicate that way. If you know anybody in town who really wants to play pan, whether they want to play in this group, whether or not or they want to learn, we teach beginner classes. I'm really passionate about that. I feel like this instrument is an instrument that everyone can play if they work at it hard enough. And I have a policy of that, where if I know somebody wants to be in this band, I will work with them until they're good enough to do it. And several of the people in this band didn't play pan until like a year and a half ago. And then a lot of the people in this band have been playing pan for 25 years like I have, you know. So it's a good balance, you know, and we have the room to bring people up, to let them grow and stand behind some of the players that have been doing this forever. But yeah, we'd love to see you. We'll be playing a lot this summer. We'll keep everybody updated on there.
Very nice, thanks. And if I'm ever here, because I travel a lot, so if I'm ever here long enough to join and learn, I definitely would do so.
We would love to have you. That would be fantastic. But maybe someday life will slow down and you know where to find me.
So thanks very much for taking the time to let us know about your band. You all were beautiful tonight. It was very nostalgic. I mean, like some of the songs I heard growing up. And I appreciate it a lot. So thank you.
For sure. Very, very good to talk to you. I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around on the stream. That's like over 2 hours. You're the real ones. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Take care. Where's Pam? Okay.
Where is Pam?
So let me see if I can get Pam to say hi. Pam is very busy. Pam. Pam. Did she hear me? Yeah. Pam had taken me on only. Let me see if Pam have a little time to say hello. Pam, can you just say hello to my viewers, please? Let people. Yes, 1 minute. Yes, it is. All right, so just let people know about the business, how long it's been here, and so forth. Remember, this is live stream, so the other one wasn't. Yeah.
Hi guys, this is me, Pam, from Seattle, but originally from Trinidad. Business 18 years, going to 19. I'm keeping Trinidad alive. I'm keeping our thing alive out here with a live music, good curries, good Trini food, and happy people. So whenever you're in Seattle, come say hi.
People are saying hello on the stream right now to you. And thanks very much, Pam, for bringing this. I mean, I just came from Trinidad, and, you know, you just get a little tobacco after Carnival. So coming down here, Pam, so soon after I came, it's really been a pleasure. So thanks.
So cool.
I heard them say they'll be here in the next few months. So will there be anything in between?
Music. Oh. Wait. Let me get a Bluetooth. Oh, go ahead. Oh.
They say you have a nice spot.
Huh?
They're saying they have a nice spot. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, sorry. If you want to disconnect, your son will connect.
Yes, I'm disconnected. Yes.
Your Pam is busy. All right?
So,
all right, Pam, I forgot what you were saying.
yes. Hey guys, I am Trini. I'm Trini to the bone. I've been here for this long, and you know what? I am true to my bone, okay, my Trini bone. And I was just telling some people out there, I started off here 18 years with $1,400 just because I wanted to put Trinidad here. And I am not, there are times when I'm so down and want to shut it down and run away, but I cannot do it. Because Trini needs to be exposed. We need to be out there. We need Washington, Seattle to know, all of Seattle know that we are good. We're good people, we have good food, we have good music, and just come on over.
And the food here is authentic Trini. If you go in any other restaurant in Seattle and they say Trini this, it's not authentic, okay? This is the only authentic one.
Yeah, guys, no fusion here, no artificial coconut. Everything is fresh.
Thanks, see you next time. Okay, everybody, thanks again for joining. And we were here tonight at Palm's Restaurant. Lots of roti here. They actually have pilau, but on this side of the country, you don't get pigeon peas. So you won't get a pigeon peas pilau here, but you'll get something very close to that. Is very tasty, all right? You're welcome, Ingrid. You're welcome, Gloria. Thank you, Gloria, Lenny, and Ingrid, my moderators. Thanks for helping moderate tonight. And for everyone in stream, thank you. I hope you had fun. Apologies for the technical difficulties with the data reception in the beginning, but once I got connected on Farms Network, everything went really well. Hi, Russell. Yes, I'm happy that I got time to talk to them. Last time I was here, I didn't get time to chat too much, and you know, I invested in a mic, so that's exciting. But yes, so this is it. Tomorrow, it's not tomorrow. I'm thinking of going live, but it's nothing to do with Caribbean. But in Seattle, now it's cherry blossom time this spring, and there's this place that I always go to every year to check the cherry blossoms. I know I did a live stream last year, but I want to do it again this year. So there's this place in UW, they call it the Quads. They have about 20 cherry blossom trees, and they have a particular time of year where they all blossom, all the cherry trees blossom, and this is that time of year. They have like 24-hour cams on the YouTube stream. For this, it's a big deal. People come from all over the world to see it. So tomorrow, around 2 my time, that will be around 5 p.m. Eastern, I will be going live just to show people what happens on this side of the world, okay? And again, thanks everybody. And you're welcome. And I'm going to sign off now. Okay then, bye. Hi Pamela. Bye everybody. Thanks, Lenny.